Upstream is drilling and production of oil and natural gas. It's where we deal with crude oil and we deal with raw natural gas. So, we're the guys that drill wells. We're the guys that try and find the oil. Midstream is, for the most part, it applies to gas or oil as well as some degree. But it's moving that raw fluid to some place who's going to process it. So it's the people who have the pipelines that move the natural gas to facilities that separate the various gas streams. And it includes natural gas plants where they separate natural gas into methane and propane and various fractions. It's the midstream are the pipelines that move crude oil or the tankers that move crude oil to the refinery. Downstream is the refinery and the marketing. It's the refinery and the gas station. So those are the three basic delineations. Other questions? Way back.
Earlier, there was a statistic that in 2025 we'd still be 87% of our energy would come from fossil fuels. Does that take into account the rate of growth we have with our alternative or sustainable energy?
Yeah, the question, and it's an obvious question, is we're investing so much in alternative energy. Why are we still going to have 87% of our energy provided by fossil fuels in 2025? And that is because while we are expanding things like wind energy and solar energy exponentially, basically, not just in the U.S. but around the world, we need an incredible amount of energy. They're starting from a very, very small place, from a very, very small percentage of our energy. And so if you double the amount of wind energy, and it's only producing 0.2% of our electricity, then in the next year you may be producing 0.4%. Now eventually, as we put more and more investment into that, it'll take a larger share. But it's going to take decades to make a difference. We've got an incredibly huge energy infrastructure. And so it just takes decades to make those kinds of changes. I think Mary said I could answer how many more questions? 2 more questions?
2 more. It would be great to have you here all day. We can have like a Mark chat later.
Okay. 2 more questions. Over here.
I'm Andy from Washington, and you said that natural gas, just in one reserve alone, there was enough for the next 200 years for the United States. How is collecting that natural gas different than collecting the oil? Why aren't we using that more than we are?
Yeah, and it's not just one reservoir, but it's basically from shale reservoirs across the country. The question to be asked is, I mentioned earlier that we have enough gas for the next 100, 200 years in shale formations in the U.S. where we're producing, and we are. Producing these shale formations has really only occurred in the last 20 years. It's really only been figured out relatively completely and gone into full-scale production in the last 5 to 10 years. I remember the Mitchell Energy, which was an independent oil company, which is bought by somebody else now, started trying to produce the Barnett Shale formation, produce gas from that formation near Fort Worth, Texas, about 20 years ago. And I remember I and other engineers in our industry thought they were crazy because we didn't have the technology to do that. We couldn't get much gas out of those formations. But they worked very hard for more than a decade to figure out what kind of technology is needed to get the gas from those shale formations. Now we know how to get the gas from those shale formations, and so we're producing a huge amount of gas from Barnett Shale. One of the hottest areas of the country right now is the Marcellus Shale in Pennsylvania and upstate New York, where there's a very similar formation. It's very productive of natural gas, and it's very near large markets. So it's new technology that we've developed to figure out how to produce those shales. And basically we're creating drilling rigs in various places where those shales exist. Not only that, we're now exporting that technology overseas. there are similar formations in Poland and in Eastern Europe. And so some U.S. companies are purchasing the rights to produce gas in places in Europe and starting to figure out how we can apply that technology there. So it's basically it's new technology. Yes?
Will we use any of the Marcellus shale gas or liquid natural gas? Is that going to be an option? Will most of that gas be marketed to the East Coast?
Yeah. All that gas is going to be marketed in the eastern U.S. There's plenty of markets nearby. We started building liquefied natural gas facilities in various places in the U.S. a decade or so ago because at the time, we didn't know that we were going to be able to get so much gas from shale formations like the Marcellus and the Barnett Shale. And now the way things are going, we're not going to need to import very much LNG, liquefied natural gas, because we've got so much gas here in the U.S. It's really good for producing oil at home, for energy security, for jobs. It's good for a lot of reasons. I think that's all the time I have, but I want to thank you for listening to me. And I know that one of the things that you're going to get to do is you're going to go on a field trip that Canada is sponsoring. And I know that'll be really interesting and a lot of fun. So I hope you enjoy your time here, enjoy your time in Dallas. And if you like Mexican food or barbecue, this is one of the best places to go. So thank you.